Hey guys, I have a new update on the bump stock ban and the litigation that's going through right now to try to stop it. So a few days ago I did a video on the Firearms Policy Coalition's lawsuit and how that's going in the DC District Court of Appeals. And today I'm going to inform you about the GOA's lawsuit. I just got a letter today from Eric Pratt, the head of the GOA, and basically today they had their hearing in front of a federal judge in the U.S. District Court for Western Michigan, which appeals to the 6th Circuit. So this is a federal court, and in the local jurisdiction is the District Court for Western Michigan. So anyways, I'm just going to give you guys some quick excerpts of this letter to let you know kind of what happened today. And I think today was another pretty good day as far as for the bump stock. So basically, Eric starts off by saying he left the federal district court in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where Gun Owners of America delivered its oral arguments on Wednesday in opposition to the ATF's bump stock ban. And he notes that the ban was so poorly written, and I always have to remind everyone of this, this is not just about bump stocks. The way this ban was written, it could ban virtually all semi-automatics, AR-15s, AKs, you name it. So keep that in mind. Whenever we're talking about bump stocks here, due to the way this regulation was written, it's about so much more than that. That whole slippery slope thing that we always worry about, right? Anyways, Eric says GOA's attorney Rob Olson did a fantastic job representing gun owners in court, and he repeatedly hammered the ATF for exceeding its authority and capriciously reversing itself and banning firearms-related items that were once legal to own. Olson also made it clear that hundreds of thousands of innocent bump stock owners are now in danger of becoming felons after March 26th. And I've talked about that before. It's going to be a felony just like it was a regular old-fashioned machine gun, guys, the way this regulation's written. They're not going to differentiate between a bump stock and a fully automatic Uzi, MP5, or M16. They're all going to be considered machine guns, right? So, it said basically the judge became a little wary of ATF overreach. And, for example, much of the discussion with the judge centered around a doctrine known as Chevron Deference. Chevron Deference is a doctrine that essentially gives a federal agency tremendous latitude in interpreting and applying federal statute. Olson, the GOA's lawyer, consistently made the point that ATF did not deserve deference, that the agency was misapplying the federal statute regarding bump stocks, and more importantly, that the ATF was effectively changing the statutory definition of what a machine gun is. And this is a point I brought up a bunch of times. What the agencies, in my opinion, have been given power to do is to provide clarification or fill in holes where there's no definition or where the definition is not clear in a federal statute that was actually written and voted on by Congress and signed by the President. In this case, with machine guns, if you look at the 1934 NFA, it's very, very clear and specific and pointed what a machine gun definition is. So I would definitely agree with the GOA's lawyer that the judge should not be able to apply the Chevron deference and expand the latitude of power from the ATF in this case, because it is so clearly defined already by written statute by duly elected officials that we elected to make laws, right? So, and then it said that this argument seemed to resonate with the judge, who appeared unwilling to grant deference to the ATF. This is a big deal, guys, trust me. Just the fact that the judge is appearing right now to be a little wary of granting deference, this is a great thing, because if he decides to apply this Chevron deference, that could basically make this lawsuit all over instantly. The judge, and then it says the judge asked GOA's counsel if a bump stock would allow uninterrupted automatic cycle of fire as a machine gun would. Olson said no. He explained that a bump stock allows for repeated semi-automatic fire in a rapid manner, where each function of the trigger produces one bullet out of the end of the barrel, which we all know that's true. And there's been some people such as the Gun Collective, I know. They put up a really nice slow motion video that's actually been used now, I think, as evidence in some of these court cases that literally proves it in slow motion. So make sure you go watch their video on the Gun Collective. John Patton and Adam Kraut, they did a really good job, and I think that video serves as a very valuable tool for overturning this bump stock ban. Anyways, the government took a contrary view, of course, claiming that a bump stock starts in motion and continues a chain of successive fire. Well, Olson brought up the point in contradiction to that, saying that an untrained shooter could fire an automatic weapon with one hand by simply pulling the trigger back, and it would keep firing, right? And a bump stock, the person has to use 2 hands and keep the repetition going. And then it says, even the ATF had to concede in its written regulation that bump firing a weapon requires the shooter to use both hands. And I think that does get to the core of the distinction, the fact that the shooter has to consciously and physically use a motion with their other hand so that the recoil can then act against the trigger finger. Whereas if you just shoot a bump stock with one hand, as we all know, it's no different than just a regular semi-automatic. In fact, you'd actually have to fix the bump stock to the rear to even be able to do that. You'd probably find yourself not even being able to pull the trigger if you tried to keep shooting it with one hand. So there you go with that. The other big thing they argued today was whether bump stocks are a threat to safety. And it says here, one of the government's lawyers brought up the Las Vegas shooting from 2017 as a reason to ban bump stocks. He claimed that the inherent dangerousness of bump stocks necessitated a ban for the sake of, quote, public safety. And if this logic were to prevail, the government could justify banning all weapons, which I think is a really good point. If you literally say that a tool, an inanimate object, used by the wrong person for evil purposes has the potential to be a danger to public safety, well then under that argument, all guns would need banned, because of course they could be dangerous, a tool in the hands of a dangerous person. Now, as we know, since the gun's an inanimate object, it itself can't be dangerous. These are dangerous people, which is no different than people that are killed with stonings, hands and feet, regular random garden tools. People have been killed with all these things. In fact, more people are killed with hands and feet than they are guns. So this would be a very dangerous argument to use if the ATF and the government were to prevail with that. That just because some inanimate object could be dangerous in the hands of a dangerous person, we need to ban it for public safety. Do we want to ban cars too? Because I think that could be another argument that could fall under there. Certainly I don't want to ban cars, and I know none of you do either. So, and then it says GOA's attorney countered by telling the judge there is no actual proof of one recorded instance where bump stocks have been used in a crime. He even cited the lack of FBI and ATF statements, studies, or reports that demonstrate that there is no conclusive evidence that a bump stock was actually even used by the Las Vegas shooter. And then it says here in the letter, this was something of a mic drop moment, because when given the chance to respond, the government's lawyer could not, in fact, he even refused to counter Olson's point. Thus, the oral arguments in the Western District Court today established unrefuted testimony that to date there is no proof of any documented case where a bump stock was actually used in a crime. And that's kind of interesting, because their whole argument starts to fall apart, that since they were used in the Las Vegas shooting, allegedly, that this is why they need banned. And then they didn't even argue back when the GOA's lawyer in front of the judge today said, no, there's actually no documented proof of that, and the FBI and ATF have yet to even release statements to prove it was used in the Las Vegas shooting. And the fact that they remain silent on that, that's pretty good. It's a pretty good thing for us. And another thing too, the judge questioned the ATF was their change of position, because as we know in the past, they've ruled several times under the Obama administration that bump stocks were not machine guns and were perfectly legal Title I firearms. If you attached it to a Title I firearm, it remained a regular firearm. And these are just an accessory, and they're not a machine gun, right? We all know that. That's why hundreds of thousands of people bought these based upon what they thought was sound legal advice from the ATF. Well, it says here, judge questions ATF for their change in position. ATF officials are well known for changing their positions on a dime, and they are guilty of doing this in regard to their position on bump stocks. In court, the government claimed their prior opinions approving possession of bump stocks in the past were correct based on what they knew, but now they are, quote, not the best understanding of the law. And this led to another mic drop moment when the judge called them out on their past behavior. The judge dryly wondered out loud why he should believe the ATF's position today. The ATF claims that judges like him must adopt the agency's current interpretation of the bump stocks. But 10 years ago, the judge noted, the ATF was arguing the complete opposite, claiming that bump stocks were totally legal under federal law. It was a great point. We can only hope that the judge will take this point to heart, that it's ATF's arbitrary interpretations that have changed over the years and is not federal law. Judges typically will not immediately issue their rulings, and this one was no exception. We can probably expect a decision within a week. So far it seems like here that a few of the comments and questions, that the judge had, the judge is a little leery of this, and it looks like this judge in Michigan's Western District Court is a little leery of this, and he's a little leery about overreach. He's a little leery about the ATF changing their mind, And how can they just keep changing their mind on these things that people actually use to make their decisions on what types of property they're going to purchase and what's going to be legal for them to own? So I think today was another really good day, guys. So I really like what I hear in this brief summary by Eric Pratt. Now look, I'm trying to be a realist. I realize this is written by him, and of course he's going to give the good points that, you know, that we want to hear. I get that. So we're in a little bit of an echo chamber here with this letter. However, I think this is a really good thing. And here's the thing too, if this gets appealed, it's going to go to the 6th Circuit. The 6th Circuit has been pretty wary in the past of government overreach and also been rather pro-gun. So this could be a good thing. And if we win it here, they're seeking an injunction where he could literally stop this bump stock ban in its tracks. Federal judges have that power, and this judge in Kalamazoo, Michigan has the power to put in an injunction to actually stop this ban from going forward. Then of course the government could appeal it to the 6th District. If the 6th District holds up the lower court's decision, then we'll still get to keep our bump stocks. It could then get appealed to the Supreme Court. And if it gets appealed to the Supreme Court, let's hope they're going to be on our side too, right? Especially with Gorsuch and Kavanaugh now sitting on the bench. They both are supposedly very pro-gun justices, and they have agreed to hear a gun case that's before them right now. So I think things are on the up and up today with the bump stock, guys. I'm going to try to remain optimistic, and I want to thank GOA for doing what they're doing. And I also thank the Firearms Policy Coalition, Firearms Policy Foundation, for what they're doing in their other lawsuit, which is in another jurisdiction right now in Washington, D.C. But I think it's great that we're hitting the federal government kind of on both ends, hitting them in Michigan's Western District here, and also hitting them in Washington, D.C. And these are two totally different legal arguments, by the way, in these two cases. GOA is using a set of certain arguments and that I just kind of outlined here. Firearms Policy Coalition in their lawsuit is basically saying that Whitaker, as the acting Attorney General, since he wasn't appointed through the proper successive chain of command and he wasn't confirmed by the United States Senate, that just the mere fact that he wrote this order makes it null and void because he did not have the legal capacity or authority to write it. So I think it's kind of cool right now that, you know, two of the leading pro-gun organizations are really honing in on these guys and getting them from both ends in two separate parts of the country. And we'll see what happens here, but I think as long as this judge puts in this injunction, this is the big deal right now. If this goes through, and I think it might, based on what I heard today, it's only going to be on the up and up from here on out, because I would look forward to the to the ATF trying to appeal to the 6th District. I don't know that they're going to actually rule in the ATF's favor, and I'm also going to hope that the Supreme Court, if it gets that far, would do what these judges say they're going to do. These judges say they're conservative. They say that they want to stand up for the Second Amendment and that they believe in the Second Amendment. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, just giving you a quick update. It wasn't as quick as I wanted it to be, but I just think this is an interesting topic, and I think we should all thank the GOA for what they're doing. I assume most of you are already members. If you're not, I suggest you do become a member of the GOA. I'm a proud member, guys. I believe they're doing a lot for our rights, and I will make a note, just because I have to. The NRA is not involved in this lawsuit and is not involved in any litigation right now to try to stop the bump stock ban. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.